Rework Toshi Sling 2.5 liters V2. This has been long overdue. I cannot tell you how many people have either recommended I take a look at this sling or just ask me how it stacks up against some of the other popular compact slings in the market. Given the fact that it's already been out for a few months and there's a ton of reviews on it, I'm still gonna be reviewing it, but this video is gonna be focused on how it compares against the Aer Day Sling 4 as well as the Alpaka Flight Sling Pro. I chose these two because they've also come out in the past few months. If you like the minimal modern look of the Toshi and the overall organizational layout, chances are you're comparing it with the Aer Day Sling 4. Or if you're looking for a compact sling that has the ability to carry something like a water bottle on it, then the Flight Sling Pro is one that you're probably also looking at. And they all happen to be 2.5 liters and they're all $79. Since the places where the Toshi wins over the Aer or the Alpaka, I consider to be its strengths, I'm not gonna have a dedicated section like I normally do on the pros. I will on the nitpicks. I'll also do a walkthrough, pack it out, and then share my final thoughts on why purely from a functionality perspective, I think this is probably the most versatile sling on the market that will likely accommodate the vast majority of use cases. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start comparing it with the Aer. For anyone that's trying to decide between the Toshi and the Day Sling 4, the points of differentiation where I feel like the Toshi wins are having that sunglass quick access pocket, having built-in compression straps that can give you additional functionality when you're out and about. And then lastly, the fact that the straps are not fixed, they're actually removable, especially for anyone that's a lefty. To me, when I'm in sling mode, I'm in pocket dump organization, essentials, quick access mode. And when it comes to my essentials and what I'm accessing the most are sunglasses. And so when I think about my favorite slings altogether, they've all incorporated a clever and intuitive way for me to get into my sunglasses and put them back in there. The execution on the Toshi is fantastic because it's just one quick access pocket that sits here over the top. You still get an additional compartment here in the bottom, and you don't have to get into the main compartment like you do in a lot of slings to get your sunglasses. If you compare it with the Day Sling 4, you have a front stash pocket that has these like segmented sleeves. The problem is with the Day Sling 4 in the front, you have this stretch mesh divider sleeve where you could fit pretty slim sunglasses, but for the most part, I find that most sunglasses, like these are, I wanna say a 49mm frame, and the sunglasses don't fit snugly enough that that's where I put my sunglasses. Hypothetically, if they did fit, then it would feel more quick access. They have a dedicated sunglass pouch in the Day Sling 4, but you have to get into the main compartment and then it's another zipper. I mean, they fit really nicely in there. They're suspended away, so they're not competing with the main compartment space. But I don't consider that quick access. You have to open the main compartment and then you have to unzip an additional one, which you can leave open, which I think most people will just do that. So it's technically one step, but that's about as quick access as it gets. Secondly, and something that's pretty unique to the Toshi are having these built-in compression straps, and I love the execution in the sense that there's a little magnet, so they just are hidden down here. But if you're out and about, whether it's a water bottle, an umbrella, maybe a light jacket that you no longer want to wear because it got too hot, just being able to clip it down here, if this is a feature that you're actually going to use, the Aer doesn't offer anything like that. And I think for a compact sling, it's just a nice to have, especially when you're traveling. And when you're not using it, it's completely out of the way. And then lastly is the fact that these straps are removable. So candidly, I'm right-handed, and so it's not a huge deal for me, right? Where the buckle sits here, that's where I would want it. But for anyone that is either lefty or simply you carry your sling on your right shoulder, then with the Aer, it's a little bit more cumbersome removing it because of the placement of the buckle. Whereas here, I actually prefer the Woojin buckle that they're using on their nylon version. I feel like I wish they would have included the Fidlock B buckle that they included on the X-Back and Ultra variants. of the Day Sling 4 on the ballistic nylon one as well. But here, as you can see, the straps are pretty easily removable and interchangeable there as well. Worth noting also is that the Toshi comes with the option to include a stabilizer strap, which I haven't used. I think for a compact sling, like a 2.5 liter, probably feels overkill, but for their 5 or 6 liter versions, then I think it's nice to have, especially if you're carrying something bulkier like a camera that's adding weight to it. Now, where Aer wins, in my opinion, is the fabric and color variety that you get with Toshi as of right now. Black in an 840D nylon is the only option. Secondly is the build quality, like the overall materials do feel a little bit more refined and premium on the Aer. And then lastly, very subjective, but I prefer the look on the Aer than I do on the Toshi. As far as fabrics and colors, in the 1680D ballistic nylon, you get black, navy, and olive, and then you also get it in X-Pack or an Ultra. And X-Pack comes with a bright orange liner, and then the Ultra also comes with the same high-vis gray liner, but you also get these like awesome lime green accents in there. I've heard rumblings that Toshi's gonna come out with some new colorways. I don't know if I've heard anything around new fabric options, but I feel like it's a popular enough sling that I really hope they can add some more options there. In terms of build quality and materials, a lot of this is just psychological, right? Like the overall perception of materials. This is using a 1680D ballistic nylon, so it has a lot more structure. But I think for a lot of people, they're gonna appreciate having something that's a little bit lighter and more malleable. So if you're putting this in a backpack or in a suitcase where you're packing it out, I'd feel a lot more hesitant about the Aer if I was gonna be like constantly throwing it in a bag or a suitcase when I'm traveling. The zipper pulls feel chunkier, more substantial. The laser etched logo feel a bit more elevated than these. You get Hypalon attachment points here where it's just like a nylon webbing on this side. And then the stretch mesh, as well as the overall like liner fabric on the Aer. The branding, you get the bar tacked Hypalon label here, where here it's just more of a simple traditional label. And the overall like stitch lines are cleaner. Everything just feels more taut on the Aer. The Toshi, there's just something so unpretentious about it. It's a tool, it embraces the function that it's designed to serve, and it serves it very swiftly. But if a lot of what brings you joy and when you use something is the materials that you're interacting with, and you value having a very premium looking and feeling product, Aer for me is definitely in a level that is above the Toshi. And then lastly is the look. Very subjective, but I think in part it's just those little premium touches, whether it's the zipper pulls, the Hypalon tabs, the structure that you get with something like a 1680D ballistic nylon versus a more finely woven 840D nylon shell. And the fact that Aer can accomplish all of this at the same price point, being a bigger company and having those economies of scale, makes it really tough for smaller companies. Now, in my opinion, I hope that Rework comes out with like a pro version of the Toshi, where maybe it's $99 instead of $79, but with it you get a tangible uplift in the materials that they're using, because I feel like functionality wise, having that sunglass quick access pocket, the compression straps, the expandable volume, the insane amount of organization within the carry community, I guarantee you so many people wouldn't hesitate spending $20 extra if they could have the functionality of the Toshi, but more parity material wise with something like the Day Sling 4. Now, comparing the Toshi with the Alpaka Flight Sling Pro, again, I'm bringing this up because one, it also came out not too long ago. It's 2.5 liters, costs the same amount, but most importantly, the Flight Sling Pro has this clever little design here at the bottom where you have a zipper, so it keeps it concealed if you're not using it, but you have this stretch mesh canopy that is perfect for something like a water bottle or an umbrella. And so anyone looking for a compact sling, there's a few other slings offered by more niche brands that have a similar functionality with a different design execution, but of the more mainstream options, this is what you're working with. Now, between the two, I feel like where the Toshi definitely wins is one, organization, and it's one of my nitpicks with the Flight Sling Pro is you get a similar layout that you're seeing more and more with slings like the Bellroy Venture Ready, the Able Carry Core Sling, the Aer Day Sling 4, where you get front stash pocket, rear hidden pocket, and then a main compartment here where you have additional organization. But on the Alpaka, you get no organization. It's just one dump pocket here in the front. Whereas with this one, it is a dump pocket, but you get the additional sunglass pouch. In the rear, they're both dump pockets with no organization. But then in the main compartment, this is where you see the biggest difference. With the Toshi, you get a sleeve here in the back. All three of these slings, by the way, will fit an iPad mini in the back. But beyond that, you get 4 stretch mesh slit pockets. Whereas with the Alpaka, you get a sleeve here in the back that you could put something like an iPad mini, and then you just get one single big zippered pouch style pocket that's pretty deep. So when it comes to smaller things, which is what I'm typically carrying, AirPods, a little flashlight, chapstick, this sling definitely benefits more the kinds of people that don't really care about segmenting their smaller things. They just treat things as big dump pockets. Secondly is the compression strap versatility and the overall execution. Now, the downside of the Toshi is that something like a water bottle just slides in and out of the Alpaka more easily because of the overall design, and just like pretty easy to like just cinch it. So on the Toshi, a little bit harder, but also not too hard to do. Right now I'm just like in an awkward, like if you're constantly gonna be taking out the water bottle and putting it back in, it's definitely more functional on the Alpaka. But the reason why I find that it's overall more versatile on this is, one, because if you want to carry anything beyond a water bottle, like if you want to strap on clothing or even just strapping things onto one side, it's easier to do with a Toshi. But second and most importantly is that the way they've implemented it, it makes it so that it's not really interfering with the usable volume a little bit. You know, like something like a big water bottle like this is eating up a little bit of the main compartment space, but it doesn't really get in the way. Whereas whenever you have something like a water bottle in the Alpaka, it goes through the main compartment and it's completely eating away the main compartment space, makes the overall space feel tighter and less usable. So it really comes down to what you prioritize. If it's just quick and easy access to a water bottle and you don't need a ton of space, or you don't mind it interfering with that space when you're using it that way, and you don't need a ton of organization, then the Alpaka Flight Sling Pro is the better option. Otherwise, if you don't mind it being a little bit more cumbersome putting something like a water bottle in there, but you want to have the flexibility of putting other things like clothing and umbrella while still preserving as much of the usable volume in the main compartment, then the Toshi wins in that scenario. And then the other one is that the Toshi has a removable key leash with the Alpaka one. Something I talked about in the video. It's not only not removable, but it's not compatible with their hub system that I'm a really big fan of. And this is a newer sling, so I'm just hoping that in like future evolution of their products, they are fully committing to this hub ecosystem that they've been creating. With the Toshi, you have little attachment loops for the key leash in the front stash pocket, the main compartment, as well as the rear one, so you have optionality there. And then I already talked about how the Alpaka Flight Sling Pro is a better fit for anyone that's looking for something compact and you want the most frictionless way for you to snag your water bottle out and put it back in, then it wins in that scenario. The other two places where I find that Alpaka wins is, one, you get more color options. So it comes in olive, navy, and black. And this is very subjective, but materials, Alpaka can be a little hit or miss with materials, and usually I put them below Aer in overall construction and material selection. It feels incrementally more premium than the Rework Toshi. I like the look and the feel of their 400D Axoflux. I'm not a huge fan of their 600D Axoflux. You get a little bit more structure, not just the shell fabric, but also in the liner. Feels a little bit more refined. And then, I mean, the webbing feels great on both of them. I really like the Woojin hardware on the Toshi, but I prefer these magnetic latch points on the Alpaka. I know you're sacrificing a little bit in the anti-theft department having something like a magnetic, although this one, because it's like you need to do a push button and then slide forward, it feels safe enough to me, and I love being able to just remove the sling with the magnet. It's not only satisfying, but a little easier to do than something like this, which is also really great. I mean, this is honestly, I've never done a pilgrim churned butter buckle score, but for a non-magnetic buckle, this feels similar-ish to the ones that Artera are using on their Falcon, but very, very smooth buckle. Zippers, also worth calling out. The Toshi gets non-PU coated zippers everywhere. You get PU coated on the Alpaka Flight Sling Pro, and then on the Aer, if you go with the ballistic nylon, you still have one PU coated in the front. Zipper smoothness rating on the Toshi, I would say like a 9.3. I mean, every zipper is really, really smooth on this thing. The one that, it's not that it's any less smooth, but you get a little storm flap for protection of the elements, but the way that they've angled the cuts here makes it so that actually like getting to that zipper, it really doesn't get in the way, and in a way that I thought it would. So to talk about the Toshi in a vacuum, my three main nitpicks with it are: one, the overall joy factor from using it. Secondly, right now, the fact that you're limited. Secondly, the fact that you're limited right now to just one color and one fabric option, which I have a feeling will be changing soon given its popularity. And then just lastly, that you don't get a pen sleeve. But yeah, as far as the joy factor goes, look, in the end of the day, a sling is a tool. It depends on like what your relationship is with products. I think for anyone that just wants to maximize on functionality, organization, and maybe you're a little less detail oriented with materials, because it still feels very much like a premium sling in a vacuum. I just think in contrast to some other options out there, it leaves a little bit to be desired. And so for me, someone that is very obsessed with the finest details, the materials, those are things that heavily contribute to the overall experience that I have interacting with those things. And so as a tool and a product for me to recommend to most people, it's so easy to recommend the Toshi Sling. And so much of its personality is just this effortless, cool. It's not trying to be anyone else. It's like not trying to impress anyone. It just is what it is, and it just happens to do its job incredibly well. And that in and of itself is part of Rework's overall brand and design language. So something that I do appreciate. But as I've continued just like exploring my relationship with bags, something that I've been leaning more and more into, and is that hard to quantify joy that you get out of using products. And it's very subjective, but same reason why I have a lot of bags that are insane at checking all my boxes, yet they're a little lacking in the joy sparking department, and why they aren't my favorite bags, nor the ones that I'm grabbing for the most. Second one, don't need to get into, but just, you know, it's right now it's only black. There's only one fabric option. I'll say it again, I personally would happily pay $20, $30 more for a Toshi Sling Pro, where it's like same layout, same design, but more premium touches, whether that's the carry grab handle, the shell fabric, the liner fabric, the way that they put the Toshi logo in there, and maybe just offering it in a more unique colorway. That would help so much with the joy factor element. And then lastly, no pen sleeve. With the Day Sling 4, you do get a dedicated pen sleeve, which I love having in a sling. And then you don't really get one in the Flight Sling Pro, but the tag, maybe they advertise it as a pen sleeve. It has a gap through it, so you can definitely put a pen through there, but it's just not like a super intentional pen sleeve either. All right, let me pack it out, walk you through it. You got the top quick access pocket. That's a sunglass pouch. And then here you can see the zipper garage, how it angles out. So despite the fact that you get a little flap, it really doesn't get much in the way of this zipper. You have some space here. You'll see here you have a little loop with a detachable key leash that can go in the middle compartment up here or in the rear compartment. You have another loop right there. So Here in the main compartment, you have a sleeve where this is just a 3D printout of an iPad mini, but you can see it fits in there. And then beyond that, you have slip pockets in the back that go deeper, and then in front of them, they're shallower. So I've been just putting mobile battery bank, then little multi-tool, nail clipper, chapstick, AirPods, and then little Woobin flashlight. Throw some car keys in the front. And then just the rear, I'll just have it, you know, for like wallet, passport, which I left upstairs, but that's pretty much it. There's that Woojin buckle, it's super satisfying to remove. The webbing has a nice thickness to it. And then you have a little carry handle, thin piece of webbing here, which is pretty nice. And then in the bottom, I already showed this to you, but this is where you have those compression straps that you can use. And technically you can unclip these things and fully stow it away, but you don't want to have to clip them every time you want to use them. So if you do plan on using them, I just keep them stowed away like this, and then they're ready to go whenever I need them. Final thoughts. I mean, this is an insanely functional sling. Love the fact that it's compact. It's 2.5 liters, yet you get a lot of expandability whenever you need that additional volume. Having this dedicated quick access pocket in the top that you could use for something like sunglasses is a game changer. Having these little compression straps built into it that you can throw an umbrella, water bottle holder, and executing this design in a way that, unlike the Flight Sling Pro, it doesn't really interfere with the usable volume in the main compartment is really clever. And ultimately, it's a sling that is not drawing any attention. It's effortlessly minimal, not trying to impress anyone. I think having the straps being removable compared to the Day Sling 4 for anyone that is a lefty or you carry your sling on your right shoulder, that is a bummer that it's stitched onto the Day Sling 4 because you can't remove it. So if you like the look of the Toshi and you value more having that additional functionality, that sunglass pocket, removable straps, a lighter weight material that's more malleable and packable, and the flexibility that you get, especially when you're traveling, having these compression straps, and you don't mind compromising a little bit in the material in construction department, then I think the Toshi's the best option out of the three. The way I rank them personally is, as someone that does really value the little details in the materials, yes, with this one, I have to resort to putting my sunglasses in the main compartment, in the little sunglass canopy that they have. And you don't get the functionality that you get in the Toshi with compression straps. But all in all, the Day Sling 4, you still get fantastic organization. The finishing and the materials on this just feel a bit more polished, and so it contributes more to just the overall joy factor that I get out of using the sling, which is why this one edges it for me. The Flight Sling Pro of the three, despite the fact that I still find these materials to be a little bit nicer, some of them, the important ones, over the Toshi, it's incremental enough that in this scenario, I would pick the Toshi over the Flight Sling Pro. I think especially because when you're using the compression straps to carry something like a water bottle, it doesn't eat away into the usable volume in the main compartment. You get a ton more organization on this one, where I feel like this one is lacking in that department. And overall, this one has a more compact footprint and just makes better use of the space overall. So yeah, I think for anyone that's like buying your first sling period, you're still gonna be very impressed with the materials and the build quality if you don't have a ton to compare with. And given how versatile it is in terms of functionality, if you were to tell me, hey, recommend one sling for 100 people without knowing anything about them, I'd probably feel more comfortable recommending the Toshi sling than any of these. But yeah, for me, for the reasons I mentioned, the Aer Day Sling 4 does edge it for me. But feel free to ask any questions. Also, I have an Instagram. I'm trying to get a little bit more engaged there. But if maybe you have a question that's not related to one of these bags, like, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I do my best to get back to people in a day or two. So Best of luck and cheers.